the insane secret my husband hid, until I discovered who he really wanted to be opening Hook and Channel engagement. When I married Michael Patterson 10 years ago, I thought I knew everything about him. His childhood in Boston, his career as a corporate lawyer, his love of jazz and old movies, his dream of retiring early to write the novel he'd been planning since college. I thought I understood his fears, failure, mediocrity, becoming his workaholic father. I thought I knew his secrets, the gambling phase in his 20s, the brother who died young, the therapy he went to after law school burnout. I was wrong about all of it. The day I discovered the safe hidden behind Michael's winter coats in our bedroom closet, everything I believed about my husband shattered. The safe was enormous, 3 feet tall, industrial-grade steel, with a digital combination lock that looked like it belonged in a bank vault. And when I finally opened it after 3 days of obsessive code breaking, what I found inside made me realize a terrifying truth. I hadn't been married to Michael Patterson at all. I'd been married to a stranger who'd been using Michael's name, Michael's life, Michael's identity as a disguise for someone completely different. Someone who wanted to be a completely different person, who lived an entire secret existence I never imagined, who'd built a hidden life so elaborate, so carefully constructed, that opening that safe was like discovering my husband had a second family, except what I found was somehow even more shocking than that. This is the story of what I discovered in that safe, and more importantly, what it revealed about the man I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. But before we dive into this disturbing story, if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon so you never miss these real-life revelations. And if this story resonates with you, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs to hear that sometimes the truth is stranger and more complex than we can imagine. Your support keeps these stories coming. Now, let's get into what happened that day. Part 1. The Perfect Mask. My name is Sarah Patterson, and for 10 years I believed I was married to a man who had his life figured out. Michael was 38 when we met. Successful, confident, articulate. I was 32, working as a high school English teacher, drowning in student debt, and wondering if I'd ever meet someone who actually wanted marriage and stability. Michael was everything I thought I wanted. He had a corner office at a prestigious law firm. He wore expensive suits and had business lunches at the kind of restaurants I'd only read about in magazines. He sent flowers for no reason and remembered details about conversations we'd had weeks earlier. "You're different from other women I've dated," he told me on our 5th date. "You're real, authentic. You don't play games." I fell hard. We were engaged after 8 months, married after a year. The wedding was elegant but not ostentatious, exactly like Michael himself. Controlled, measured, perfect. Our marriage fell into comfortable routines. Michael left for the office at 7 every morning, returned around 7 every evening. We had dinner together, watched TV, went to bed at a reasonable hour. Weekends meant brunch with friends, occasional hiking trips, quiet evenings with books and wine. From the outside, we were the perfect couple. Stable jobs, nice suburban house, active social life. Everyone said we were lucky to have found each other. But looking back now, I can see what I missed. The way Michael was always on, performing the role of successful lawyer, devoted husband, normal guy. The way he never fully relaxed, even at home. The way certain topics made him change the subject immediately. Like when my friend Emma asked him about his college years. "Oh, studied hard, partied occasionally, graduated, not much to tell," deflecting with charm and vagueness. Or when I suggested we visit his hometown of Boston. "My family's all gone now. No real reason to go back," closing that door firmly. Or when I wanted to organize our closet. "I'll handle it. You've got enough on your plate with school," keeping me away from his spaces. I thought I was respecting his privacy, giving him room to be himself, being the cool wife who didn't need to control everything. I didn't realize I was being managed, carefully kept at arm's length from anything that might reveal the truth. The cracks started showing about a year ago. Michael became more distracted, more secretive. He'd get phone calls he'd take in another room. He'd come home later, citing work deadlines that seemed to never end. He changed his computer password and started sleeping with his phone under his pillow. Classic signs of an affair, right? That's what I thought. That's what I feared. I wish it had been that simple. 3 weeks ago, Michael went on a business trip to Chicago. 4 days of client meetings and depositions. The house felt empty without him, so I decided to do some deep cleaning, the kind of organizing project I'd been putting off for months. I started with our bedroom closet. Michael's side was packed with suits, dress shirts, winter coats he rarely wore. I began pulling things out, planning to donate what he didn't use. That's when I found it. Behind a row of heavy winter coats, pushed into the back corner where you'd never see it unless you pulled everything out, was a safe. Not a small lockbox for jewelry or documents. A massive, floor-bolted safe that must have weighed 200 pounds. How had I never noticed it? Simple. I'd never had reason to empty the entire closet. Never pulled out all of Michael's winter clothes at once. The safe had been hidden in plain sight for God knows how long. I stared at it, my heart pounding. Why did we have a safe I didn't know about? What was in it that Michael had hidden from me? I tried our anniversary date, our birthdays, random number combinations. Nothing worked. For 3 days, while Michael was in Chicago, I became obsessed with that safe. I researched safe-cracking techniques, tried every significant date I could think of, called a locksmith who quoted me $2,000 and said he'd need proof of ownership. Finally, on a whim, I tried something different. Michael had a brother who died when they were teenagers. Tyler, killed in a car accident when Michael was 17. It was one of the few truly personal things Michael had ever shared with me. I entered Tyler's birthday, 03/15/88. The safe clicked open. Part 2. The Hidden Life. My hands were shaking as I pulled the heavy door open. The safe was deep, filled with items carefully organized in labeled boxes and folders. This wasn't a place where someone stashed valuables randomly. This was curated, maintained, a carefully preserved archive of something. But of what? The first thing I pulled out was a folder labeled simply him. I opened it. Inside were photographs, dozens of them, all of the same person. A man in his 40s with long dark hair, tattoos covering his arms, wearing leather jackets and band t-shirts. He looked nothing like Michael. This man was rough-edged, intense, the kind of person you'd see at a rock concert or biker bar. But the face. Even with the different hair and the tattoos and the completely different style, the face was undeniably Michael's. I felt dizzy. These photos weren't old. They were recent. The backgrounds showed places I recognized. Our town, locations near our house. Some were selfies. Some were clearly taken by someone else. All showed a version of Michael I'd never seen, who wore leather and had tattoos I'd never noticed. Wait, tattoos? I'd never seen tattoos on Michael. Ever. We'd been naked together countless times. He showered every morning. How could he have full-sleeve tattoos I'd never noticed? Unless they weren't real. Unless in these photos, he was wearing temporary tattoos or makeup or something to create the appearance of a completely different person. I set the photos aside and pulled out the next item. A leather jacket. Expensive, well-worn, smelling of cigarette smoke. I'd never seen Michael smoke. Not once in 10 years. Beneath the jacket were more clothes. Band t-shirts for groups I'd never heard Michael mention. Ripped jeans with chains. Boots that looked like they belonged to someone who rode a motorcycle, which Michael definitely didn't own. Then I found the letters. A whole box of them, addressed to Ridge from various people. Some were emails he'd printed out. Some were handwritten notes, all addressed to someone named Ridge, written by people who clearly knew him well. Ridge, you fucking legend. That show last night was insane. Ridge, we need to talk about the band's direction. Ridge, I can't keep doing this behind her back. You need to choose. Ridge? My husband's name was Michael. Who the hell was Ridge? I kept digging, my hands trembling, my brain refusing to process what I was seeing. I found a separate phone, password-protected credit cards in the name Ridge Patterson band flyers featuring Ridge Patterson, lead guitar for a group called Broken Authority, ticket stubs from concerts, bars, events I'd never heard of, a journal filled with song lyrics and personal reflections written in handwriting that was definitely Michael's, but in a voice that was nothing like him, and at the very bottom, a folder labeled The Plan. I opened it with hands that could barely hold the pages steady. Inside was a detailed document, typed, organized, terrifying in its specificity. Transition timeline, becoming Ridge full-time. followed by pages outlining a plan to gradually leave his law practice, his marriage, his entire Michael Patterson life behind, to transition from occasional nights out as Ridge to living as Ridge permanently. The document included financial planning for divorce settlements, steps for legal name change, how to explain his departure to friends and family, a target date, his 40th birthday, which was in 6 months. At the end of the document, one paragraph made my blood run cold. Sarah deserves better than half a person. She married Michael Patterson, successful lawyer, stable husband. She didn't sign up for Ridge, the man I actually am. The man I've been hiding since I decided at 23 that being Ridge wouldn't get me anywhere in life. She deserves a full goodbye, not a slow fade. When the time comes, I'll tell her the truth. That Michael Patterson was a character I played to survive in a world that had no place for who I really wanted to be. I sat on the closet floor, surrounded by the evidence of my husband's secret identity, and tried to process what I was seeing. Michael wasn't having an affair. He was living a double life. He was two completely different people, the buttoned-up corporate lawyer everyone knew, and Ridge, a rock musician, a rebel, a person who existed in dive bars and basement shows and a world I knew nothing about. And he was planning to leave me, to shed the Michael persona entirely and become Ridge permanently. In 6 months, the door to our bedroom opened. Michael's voice called out, "Sarah, I'm home early. The deposition's wrapped up ahead of schedule." I froze. He was home. I was sitting in his closet, surrounded by his hidden life, his secret identity exposed. "Sarah?" His footsteps approached. "You home?" I couldn't move, couldn't speak, could barely breathe. Michael appeared in the closet doorway. His eyes went from me to the open safe to the photographs and clothes scattered around me. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then Michael, or Ridge, or whoever the hell he was, closed his eyes and said in a voice I'd never heard before, "Fuck." So this is how it ends. Part 3. The unmasking Michael stood in the doorway for what felt like an eternity, his expensive suit and briefcase looking absurdly out of place against the backdrop of leather jackets and band t-shirts scattered across our closet floor. "How did you open it?" he finally asked, his voice flat. "Tyler's birthday," I said. My own voice sounded distant, disconnected. "Your dead brother's birthday was the code to your secret life." Something flickered across Michael's face, pain maybe or regret. "That's fitting, actually. Tyler's the reason I became Michael in the first place." "Explain that," I said. "Explain all of this. Because right now, I don't know who the hell I'm married to." Michael, and I still thought of him as Michael because I didn't know how else to think of him, set down his briefcase slowly, like every movement required enormous effort. Then he sat on the closet floor across from me, not touching the scattered evidence of his double life. "My name is Ridge Patterson," he began, and hearing him say it out loud made it real in a way that looking at photos hadn't. It was my name first. Ridge was who I was before I became Michael. "That doesn't make sense," I said. "Your legal name is Michael. I've seen your driver's license, your birth certificate. Those are real." "Ridge, Michael," interrupted. "I legally changed my name when I was 23. From Ridge Michael Patterson to Michael Ridge Patterson. Flipped my first and middle names. Most people just started calling me Michael, and Ridge became the middle name nobody used." He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture that suddenly looked different now that I knew who he really wanted to be. "I grew up as Ridge. That's what my family called me." Ridge Patterson was a kid who loved rock music and lived in ratty t-shirts and wanted to be in a band, who had long hair and an earring and big dreams about making music that meant something. Then Tyler died, I said softly, remembering the few times Michael had mentioned his brother. "Then Tyler died," Ridge confirmed, "and my parents completely fell apart, especially my dad. He'd had such big plans for Tyler. Tyler was the golden child, the one who was going to business school, going to take over Dad's company. Tyler was the future." He laughed bitterly. "And then there was Ridge, the disappointment, the kid playing guitar in bars and barely scraping by. When Tyler died, I watched my dad transform into this hollow shell of a person, and I realized that if I wanted to give him any reason to keep living, I needed to become Tyler. Not literally, but I needed to become the son who had ambition and direction and a future my dad could be proud of. So, you became Michael, I said. So I became Michael, Ridge agreed. Cut my hair, got rid of the earring, enrolled in college to finish my degree, applied to law school, started dressing differently, talking differently, being differently, and it worked. My dad started looking at me with something other than disappointment, started telling people his son was in law school, going to be a lawyer. And Ridge? Ridge got packed away, he said, gesturing to the safe. I told myself it was temporary, just until my dad recovered, just until I got established. But then my dad died my second year of law school, and by then I'd invested so much in becoming Michael that I couldn't just go back. I had student loans, commitments, a career path. Michael Patterson had momentum, but Ridge never went away, I said, looking at all the evidence of his secret life. Ridge never went away, he confirmed. I tried. God, I tried for years to just be Michael completely, to kill Ridge off and become the successful lawyer my family could be proud of. But Ridge kept pushing through, demanding space, demanding to exist. He picked up one of the photos of himself as Ridge, studied it with an expression I couldn't read. About 6 years ago, I started letting Ridge out occasionally, just one night a month at first. I'd put on the clothes, do my hair different, go to bars where nobody knew Michael Patterson. I'd play guitar at open mic nights. I'd be Ridge for a few hours, then go back to being Michael. The business trips, I realized. How many of those were actually Ridge going to play shows? Not all of them, Ridge said. Most were real work. But yeah, sometimes I'd extend trips by a day or two. Or I'd have work events that were actually band practice or shows with a group I'd been playing with. Broken Authority, I said, remembering the flyers. He looked surprised that I'd seen them. Yeah, Broken Authority. We're actually pretty good. We've built a small following in the local music scene. Nothing that would make us famous, but it's real. The music is real. Ridge is real. And Michael? Ridge looked at me directly for the first time since sitting down. Michael is a character I play. A very well-developed, thoroughly researched character. Michael Patterson, corporate lawyer, pillar of the community, boring guy with a boring life. Michael is the mask I wear to function in a world that has no patience for Ridge. And where do I fit in? I asked, my voice breaking. In this story where Michael is a character and Ridge is the real person, where does your wife fit? Pain flashed across Ridge's face. You married Michael. You fell in love with Michael. You built a life with Michael. And I am so sorry, Sarah, because Michael isn't real, and you deserve to marry someone real. Why? Tears were streaming down my face now. Why marry me at all if you knew you were planning to eventually become Ridge full-time? Why build this life with me when you knew you were going to leave? Because I thought I could make it work, Ridge said desperately. I thought if I had the right life, the right wife, the right stability, I could make Michael be enough. I thought loving you would make me want to stay Michael forever. But it didn't. But it didn't, he confirmed softly. Because no matter how much I love you, and Sarah, I do love you. That was never fake. I can't keep being someone I'm not. It's killing me. Slowly, but definitely. Every day I put on the suit and go to that office and pretend to care about corporate law, a piece of Ridge dies, and I'm running out of pieces. The plan in the folder, I said. You were going to leave me in 6 months, on your 40th birthday. I was going to give us both freedom, Ridge corrected. Freedom for you to find someone who's actually the person you married. Freedom for me to finally be myself after 17 years of hiding. You were going to divorce me without even giving me a choice. My voice rose, anger finally breaking through the shock. You were going to decide for me what I could handle, what I could accept, just like you decided to hide Ridge from me for our entire marriage. What choice could I give you? Ridge shot back, his voice rising to match mine. You married Michael Patterson. Safe, stable, predictable Michael. You didn't sign up for Ridge. You wouldn't want Ridge. Ridge is everything you avoided in your dating life. Unstable, artistic, risky. You told me on our 3rd date that you'd dated too many creative types who couldn't pay rent. I am that creative type, Sarah. Under the suit and the salary and the suburban house, I'm the irresponsible musician you specifically didn't want. You don't get to decide who I want, I was shouting now. You don't get to make choices for me based on who you think I am. Maybe I would have surprised you. Maybe I could have loved Ridge too. But you never gave me the chance because you were so convinced you knew what I needed. We stared at each other, both breathing hard, years of hidden resentment suddenly visible. You're right, Ridge said finally, quietly. You're absolutely right. I should have trusted you with the truth from the beginning. Should have let you decide if you could love all of me, not just the acceptable parts. But I was a coward. I've been a coward since I was 23 years old. He looked at me with eyes that were the same color as Michael's, but somehow completely different. So here's your choice now, even though it's years too late. Now you know. Michael is a mask. Ridge is who I really am. And I'm planning to shed the Michael mask completely in 6 months. Quit the law firm, legally change my name back, live as Ridge full-time. The question is, do you want to know Ridge? Do you want to try to build something real with the person I actually am? Or do you want to divorce Michael and move on with your life? Either choice is valid. Either choice, I'll support. But you deserve the chance to decide based on truth, not the lies I've been telling for 10 years. I looked at him, this stranger who was also somehow my husband, at his expensive suit that suddenly looked like a costume, at his carefully styled hair that wanted to be longer and wilder, at the corporate lawyer mask that was finally, visibly cracking. And I had absolutely no idea what to say. Epilogue. 6 months later, I'm writing this from a different apartment. Not the suburban house Michael and I shared. Something smaller, grittier, in a part of town where dive bars outnumber coffee shops. The divorce from Michael Patterson was finalized 2 months ago. It was amicable as these things go. We split assets, divided belongings, signed papers. Michael Patterson ceased to exist as my husband. But I'm not writing this from an empty apartment, alone. Ridge Patterson is in the kitchen making breakfast. I can hear him singing along to something playing on his phone. Off-key but enthusiastic. He's wearing ripped jeans and a band t-shirt, his hair grown out to shoulder length, tattoos, real ones now, not temporary, visible on his forearms. He looks nothing like the man I married, and everything like the person I'm learning to love. The 6 months after I discovered the safe were the hardest of my life. Ridge and I went to therapy, lots of it. We had screaming fights about lies and trust. We had long, painful conversations about identity and authenticity. We deconstructed our marriage piece by piece, trying to figure out what was real and what was performance. And slowly, cautiously, I got to know Ridge, the real person underneath the Michael mask. Ridge is messier than Michael, more impulsive. He forgets to pay bills on time and leaves dishes in the sink. He stays up until 3 a.m. playing guitar and sleeps until noon. He wears the same jeans 3 days in a row and doesn't care what people think. But Ridge is also more real than Michael ever was. He's passionate about his music in a way Michael was never passionate about law. He's emotionally available in ways Michael never could be. He lets me see his vulnerabilities, his fears, his authentic self. And I surprised both of us by falling in love with him. Not immediately, not easily, but gradually. As I watched Ridge become fully himself, I discovered I liked this person better than the carefully curated version he'd been hiding. I still mourn what I lost. The stability, the predictability, the life I thought I was building. The man I thought I married doesn't exist, and grieving that loss has been necessary. But I don't regret my choice. I chose to get to know Ridge, to give him, us, a chance at something real. Michael Patterson was a lie, but Ridge is the truth. And truth, however messy and complicated and difficult, is better than living with a beautiful lie. Would I have made the same choice at 22? Probably not. The younger version of me wanted security more than authenticity. But I'm not 22 anymore. And I've learned that the most important thing in a relationship isn't that your partner fits your plan. It's that your partner is real. Ridge was real. Ridge is real. And for the first time in our relationship, I know exactly who I'm loving. The insane secret my husband hid wasn't infidelity or crime. It was himself, the person he actually wanted to be, the identity he'd been crushing under the weight of other people's expectations for 17 years. And discovering that secret didn't destroy us. It destroyed Michael Patterson, but it gave birth to something honest, something messy and imperfect and absolutely real. I wouldn't have chosen this journey, but now that I'm on it, I wouldn't trade it for anything, not even for the comfortable lie I lived for 10 years. The end.